and I just lost control of my emotions. Guys don't do that, do they?
What's one leadership lesson that you wish that you'd learnt earlier in your career?
And I think that this is typical for men. We have great difficulty in asking for help. In my head, it's like you're going to sit in a room on beanbags and talk about depression. It'll be okay.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
Today on Leaders in Disguise, I'm joined by somebody who understands leadership from the sharpest edge, where well-being, performance and humanity collide. John Sidebotham built a career leading major programs in engineering and transport, but behind the scenes he was facing a battle that nearly cost him everything. From burnout that was triggered by a toxic environment to building one of the most human-centered programs that I've heard of. John's story shows just what leadership really should be and what under pressure looks like. So let's dive in. John, thank you so much for coming and sitting down with me. It feels like, how long have we been talking about you?
I don't know. It's months and months and months. And it's just a delight to be here today. So thanks so much for inviting me on today's podcast.
Thank you. Did you get here okay? Most importantly, it's a hot day today we're filming.
Yeah, no problem at all with the travel. Really easy journey across, and what a fabulous setting.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. I can't take any credit. People behind the camera, my team are absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I just sit here and just ask easy or hard questions, perhaps. It's really great to have you here. I know you currently are working in Network Rail.
Absolutely.
Is your current employer. We'll get into that a little bit later on. I'm going to say thank you at the very start. You asked me to come on one of your wellbeing calls that we will get into. I'm not going to do any spoiler alerts at this stage. And I spoke to a really engaged, really enthusiastic group of people about facial difference, which is one of the areas that I talk about. So thank you for that. I just wanted to say that publicly because I really enjoyed myself.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's a really important story you got to share, and you doing that enabled other people to open up about what they were going through. So absolutely. Brilliant, thank you.
And there was people on, just reminded me now, there was someone on the call who's, I'll get into a tangent for a bit, I'll get shouted at afterwards. There was somebody on the call whose wife had Bell's palsy or some sort of form of facial paralysis during pregnancy.
Yes.
And that was a learning for me. Yeah. And even more wonderful, I'm going to do a name check to Laura now. So Laura is one of the liaison officers at Facial Palsy UK. He mentioned her name. Yeah. So Laura Warren, I was thinking, wow, like I don't hear her name come up as often as I should.
Well, I think that shows the value of some of the work I now do, and you just helping people in all sorts of different ways and raising awareness. And people think they're going through something just on their own, and when you open up a conversation, actually revealing your vulnerability gives permission for other people to reveal some of their vulnerability. Yeah. And if you're creating a psychologically safe space where you celebrate difference and uniqueness, for me that drives safety, it drives performance, it drives innovation. Fantastic. All organisations should really be looking to do this.
So that makes people now listen to see when we talk about that a bit. So we'll stop. There's a great hook there, and now we'll get everyone. I'm only joking. A natural hook, should I say? But one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, you're in such an incredible role that you're doing now. But I want to just take you back a little bit, or as far back as you would like, in your earliest start of your career. That word leadership, I mentioned it in my intro. We'll talk about eventually what leadership might look like now towards throughout the show. But what did leadership sound like? How did you define leadership back in the day in your earlier career?
That's a very interesting question. So I've done all sorts of different roles, and I worked for quite a long time for an integrated transport authority and managed quite a large complicated team. And in that I appointed who I thought were the right people for the roles, and people from all sorts of different backgrounds. And for me, just that enabled difference of thinking to sort of drive improved innovation. And I only reflected on that quite recently, thinking I'd got people from all sorts of different sort of faiths, beliefs, ethnicities. and I think that's a good place for any organisation, where you actually just, people feel they can be their best and they can be themselves, and that drives a way forward.
I guess it's never that easy, is it?
No, I mean it's. I mean, I started my career a long time ago for a coach and bus, a holiday business called Smith's Happy Ways, and then we acquired a company called Shearings, and I worked for them for a little while. And leadership was just making sure we actually delivered a great product for our customers, and just worked together as a team. And that was a fantastic learning experience in sort of both dealing with customers and dealing with our drivers in getting sort of great service out there. And then I sort of moved into transport modelling, which it's like consultancy, and then more policy directive roles. But you're only as good as the people you've got around you, and you should be working always to sort of develop them.
Yeah.
And I guess I've flexed that over time. I've probably become more aware of, you really no idea what's going on for people, and if somebody's performance perhaps slides or isn't what you might expect, rather than sitting in judgment on them, rather than putting them on a performance improvement plan, actually just get alongside them. Like, what's going on? What's going on? Do we need to put any reasonable adjustments in for you? Is there something in your home life that is inhibiting you reaching your potential? But people don't always feel psychologically safe. They don't always feel that they could open up about what's going on for them. And I mean, in anybody's career, you'll go through all sorts of change. It changes always with you. You work for some people that you really resonate with, some people you find that are really challenging, difficult to engage with. There's change that's done you may not agree with, and you sort of got to navigate that. And I experienced redundancy from the Integrated Transport Authority back in, I think it's 2010. I really liked what I was doing up to about 2 years before that, and I'd sort of fallen out of love with it to an extent. And redundancy, it can seem as a real threat, and it can really damage your self-esteem, but sometimes that change brings about a positive new beginning. And somebody said to me recently, through chaos there's opportunity, and that change brought me to Network Rail. It brought me to work in a safety improvement program, something I'd never really engaged in before, and started a passion around sort of wellbeing and caring for people. And I've done all sorts of different roles in Network Rail, from sort of working in one of our routes, putting a new governance structure in, making sure we're compliant with legislation, and I've managed sort of fairly large innovation projects, sort of nationally, and it was when I was doing that, I worked for somebody whose behaviours weren't really in line with Network Rail's values. And
I think I've got this as a note.
Yeah.
I think around about 2018, was it?
Yeah.
Particularly?
Yeah, so...
really like, if I may, is it...
Yeah, of course.
You'd said that, I'm just looking at my notes here from our phone call, something happened that changed everything for you. So your environment, your day-to-day basis. So yeah, if you don't mind sharing that with us.
So I ended up working for somebody whose behaviours weren't really in line with our values, and to try and meet their requirements, I ended up working really excessive hours, and whatever I did and my team did, it didn't sort of meet the requirements of that individual, and yeah, I thought I was coping all right. Other people around me knew I wasn't really coping all right, and I went to pick a prescription up for my wife. So I was working in Milton Keynes at that stage, and I live in the West Midlands, so I got a train from Birmingham International. So I got to International, drove to the chemist, which is probably about 10 to 7, and the chemist who I'd known for years, he just goes, "How's your lovely wife, John?" And I just lost control of my emotions. Guys don't do that, do they? In a store full of people. And he was just lovely with me. But it just felt like the first nice thing that had been said that day.
And I can see it impacting you now.
Yeah.
It's that kindness
Yeah.
helps in so many ways.
Yeah.
But
I sort of apologised and stumbled out of the store. I'm probably showing my state of mind. I went in the next day to apologise again. And I did a repeat performance. And again, he was delightful with me. I thought, I've got to do something. And I think this is typical for men. We have great difficulty in asking for help. We have difficulty in realising that we need help, whether it's our physical health or our mental health. And I thought I need to do something. I just booked to see my GP. Literally got back to the car, made the phone call. And I thought, what is he going to say to me? There's a middle-aged guy. It looks like everything's all right. He's got a reasonable job, but seems to have relationships at home okay. What have you got to worry about?
Because didn't you think you had bronchitis? I think you said to me when we spoke.
Yeah. So
you thought it was something completely different.
Well, my doctor said it was year end, and said I can't go off because I've got somebody on long term sick. I'm worried they're going to get the behaviours I'm getting if I go off now, and there's lots of sort of year end stuff to deal with. And he goes, "You should be off. Phone me when you're ready." And it was about 3 weeks later. I tend to take the stairs rather than a lift, and I think the office floor we were on was, I think it was the 3rd floor, it might have been the 2nd floor, but I couldn't breathe, and I thought, I'm having a panic attack here. And that was the phone call to the GP, and I went back and saw them, and then I went through various tests, and it wasn't panic attack, it was bronchitis.
I thought it was the other way around.
But your immune system, when you're sort of under attack, gets vulnerable, and you get more prone to different infections, and that was just a consequence of reducing my self-care. Just working excessive hours, stopping doing the things that you need to do to look after you. So at that stage I used to run, cycle, swim, play my violin, socialise with friends, family, and that had all got massively constrained, and it was basically work.
Isn't it interesting when we, and you know this well, I'm sure many people are now switching on to this, that we so quickly can identify what physically is going on, and that you said, something needs to be done, I need to go and see my doctor because I'm having, albeit kind of a mix of physical and mental, you think, I'm having panic attacks, but you ended up, ironically, I guess, is that the word, and I don't want to sound unkind, you ironically ended up diagnosing something that was physical because of what your mental state was, but perhaps that was the panic that you were thinking, you were misdiagnosing physical symptoms we still need medical intervention and support of mental, but somebody could give you antibiotics very easily sorted for bronchitis, etc. But that could have been, you could have missed out on that diagnosis.
So when I saw my GP, first of all, he realised that I was under a huge strain, and he said, "Do you think it's just you?" And he said, I hear this all the time. So many people are going through this, and you just need to be off to heal. And you're going to be off for a while.
It sounds like a week or 2 weeks.
Well, for me, that's 2 or 3 weeks. And he was absolutely right. When I did go off, it was more than a while. It was 12 months. And through work, I got some counselling, and you're allowed so many sessions, and then whatever my GP had said to the mental health services, I got fantastic support from the NHS very swiftly on from that. So I went through some group therapy, another lot of group therapy, some CBT therapy, some one-to-one therapy. And if it's offered to you, just take whatever's there. Do some self-exploration. And
I was going to ask you for me, because I did group CBT. I don't know if that was therapy that you did. And sitting in a room with a group of people, you don't want to tell the person next to you, let alone a group of people. How did you find that experience? Because so many people turn off to that, don't they? I find it valuable, by the way.
Yeah. So I had one-to-one stuff through work, which is great. And then the stuff from the NHS was, we can offer you this group therapy. Yeah. And I got in my head, it's like you're going to sit in a room on beanbags and talk about depression and anxiety and stress.
Like a fun room to be
and you go, I really don't fancy that. And look, it's facilitated. The psychologists who sort of host it, they know what they're doing, and if you want to wait for one-to-one, that'll be 18 months. And it's like, I'll take it. So yeah, I think there was like 8 sessions or thereabouts. It might have been more or slightly less in the first round, and then there was a subsequent round. And the first couple of sessions, you're getting used to the other people there, and you find out you've got very similar stories. What brought you to this situation? Many people with issues with work, some people with issues with relationships, or just their upbringing has brought them there. But a lot of common ground, and we got to know each other, and you got to support each other, and you got like a community through that, in that moment in time to support. So if it's offered to you, just take whatever. I was very fortunate that I had a community psychiatric nurse come to my house every week for months and months and months. And it's an unusual thing with your mental health. Sometimes you find it a lot easier to talk to people who aren't close to you.
Yeah. Groups of people.
I don't know whether that's just part of concern about worrying your loved ones. I think that's part of it. Part of it is, I think, your thoughts are so extreme, and you know they're not really your normal thoughts, that if you share them with your nearest and dearest, they'll be deeply, deeply concerned. And of course they would be concerned anyway, but you're not your well self at that moment in time.
We don't want them to tarnish their view of us. I guess a perfect stranger, you'll never see them again. But
my psychiatric nurse, she was called Amy, she asked questions that others wouldn't, like, so are you suicidal?
Great.
And other people might be wary about going there. But if you are, it's a sort of release to share. And if you're in the depth of depression, when your world is really, really dark, suicidal ideation can be very much part of it. And there's all sorts of research around if somebody's going to take action, and the decision they take to take action is often in quite a short window of time. But through the sort of therapy, I came to realise that your thoughts aren't facts, they're just thoughts. And if you have feelings of suicidal ideation, if you can just reflect on them as a bit like clouds forming in the sky, staying a while and then dissolving, that's your thought. You don't have to act on it, it'll pass.
I guess because mental health comes in lots of shape or forms. We learn that on the podcast, that it could be your mental health because of what you're experiencing, or it could be because you're part of a couple, something that's going on in your life where your other half is experiencing, and you're trying to navigate the world whilst they're unwell. It's all individual and everyone is valid, but actually we are all feeling very similar feelings,
Yeah.
and we end up in a similar place, sadly, in some scenarios, I guess.
Yeah, I think you said that is really important, because remembering your feelings are valid. Whatever you're going through, your feelings are valid. The pandemic started in March 2020, as you'll recall, and Jacqueline and I were chatting, what could we do to support our team? So it was called Intelligent Infrastructure. It's a really complicated digital delivery. We got people working for us internationally, so you think that well, it's just in the UK, but you've got specialists working for us all over the place. And we saw if you worked for one of our delivery partners, you work for us. You're part of our family. So it might be Cognizant, EY, Deloitte, any name, a whole selection of other organisations work for us. So we decided that I'd put a daily wellbeing call on at lunchtime as a safety net, just for people to chat. And we thought, the pandemic can last 3 months, right? Be done.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an ask. I think I can do it. I think I can do that. And I thought, you know what, I should theme it. And I'd come across research from the New Economics Foundation that talked about 5 ways to well-being, which many of the listeners probably have heard of, which is connecting with each other, moving a bit more, taking notice, staying curious and giving back. And those themes are promoted by the NHS, they're promoted by other health providers sort of globally. So those are my themes for the day. If you like, some Monday I might sort of look at connection, how we build connection, the power of language. Is the language we use today fit for purpose? Is it a legacy from our past, and is it limiting somebody else? Do we need to think about our words? Or it might be Wednesday, being in the moment, leading a meditation on, say, breathing space, or sounds and thoughts meditation, or a body scan meditation. And I thought it's a bit boring listening to me, right? We wanted to get some other people on, so I just started to reach out to people to talk about their lived experience, whatever it might be, and then reach out to charities and get them to lead sessions for us. So we've done stuff on domestic abuse with White Ribbon Foundation and 2 lovely colleagues who've been through some atrocious situations. We've done sessions on domestic abuse where men are the victims, and worked with a charity called Mankind. I've done some brilliant sessions for us. Encephalitis awareness, sepsis awareness, anything that's a little bit uncomfortable or edgy, we do stuff. On sepsis, I came across this fabulous lady called, she brands herself as Second Chance Kim. Kim was on holiday in Spain, and she got sepsis, and it wasn't spotted properly until she was back in the UK, and it resulted in her being a quadruple amputee. But having her on the call, just sharing her experience and advising people what the signs are, and it's a medical emergency and what to do. 2 minutes with Kim will really elevate your mood. If you're having a terrible day, it will just elevate your mood.
Because these topics sound really deep. We've struggled to find that balance, very similarly to find that balance between telling a story but keeping it light, that people can listen and digest without putting off some really seriously important information here. But we can all have a laugh, we can all cry, and Kim sounds great. She's able to talk about that in such a light-hearted way. It's
absolutely fantastic what she does. But loads of stuff. There's a nutritionist that we've got a contract with who comes in and talks about different aspects of diet, which is really good. We've had Diabetes UK come in and talk to us. All sorts of different things, really.
What's the feed? Because so you said there isn't just so. And I started I talking to you today. I said Network Rail, but actually it's the Network Rail family, extended family, I guess. They've lots of people. Lots of different suppliers, customers still involved in it,
Yeah.
they're still coming back.
Oh.
I saw it. I delivered one for you.
Yeah.
Like, what makes those people still want to come back when you do it so regularly?
I think it's just it's the variety of what we cover, and then sometimes people just, if it's me hosting a call and say like I'll do a meditation or whatever, it's just a bit of space in the middle of the day, then people find that as a relief, as a safe psychological space just to open up. So the special events, as you know, we tend to record the main presentation and turn the recording off for Q&A, but then we cascade the recording across the industry, so it goes out across Network Rail. I've got my own Viva Engage channel, so it's like Facebook for business, so it'll always be there. And it goes out to people in our supply chain. It goes out to loads of train operating companies and wider organisations too, that just express an interest. So I post on LinkedIn about events that are coming on. So like, tomorrow, it's every 4 weeks I've got a Making Ends Meet panel discussion.
Is this your loose men thing that you tell? Or you've got lots of these as well?
Yeah, loose. So Making Ends Meet is just colleagues sharing about how they're making money stretch a bit further, and often I'll have GamCare, Stop Loan Sharks, Pay Plan, sometimes Step Change on as experts. Unfortunately, tomorrow they're not available. They normally are, so it'd just be Network Rail colleagues just sharing their lived experience. But yeah, loose men. Every year, typically, I'll do a panel discussion for International Women's Day, and I'll reach out to senior women in the industry, and always I get yes, we'd love to come on and just chat about who's inspired them, experiences that they've had that might have limited aspirations, how they've navigated change. Great conversations. And it was Father's Day, and somebody said, John, we should do something for that. And I go, you're right. Let's do a panel discussion for guys, and what do you think we should call it? And tongue in cheek, somebody said loose men. So yeah, obviously there's loose women on GMTV. It's, if you like, the Network Rail loose men. And for the first one, I reached out to senior leaders across the business and would you like to come on this? And I got nothing back, tumbleweed. Nothing
I guess
at all.
to expect to a certain degree, and men are the last people to want to talk in a room.
Yeah, and
stereotypically.
I started phoning around people and said, you want me to come on a call, a panel, and talk about my feelings? They go, yes, that would be great. Too many people said, you know what, it's so hard just to come into work. I don't think I can share that vulnerability.
Wow.
Because I don't think I'll be able to get it back together if I let my guard down.
Especially in engineering, in transport, in the logistics and the industry you're in. More stereotypically is that maybe that stigma exists a little bit more. Perhaps.
I think it's still very much there. We are getting better. We're still very male focused. I think it's about 19% of our workforce is female. In some roles, it's much higher. So when I was in Jacqueline's team, Intelligent Infrastructure, we were much more evenly balanced in terms of gender and also faith, beliefs, ethnicity. It was a very diverse team. But yeah, then a couple of senior leaders said, yes, I'm happy to come along and talk about my lived experience. So shout out to Nick Millington particularly, who's director of our National Safety Task Force. And it was a fabulous loose man on our panel for a good long while. Robert Mpomo was our Chief Technology Officer, was the same. And then I had a chance conversation with one of our railway chaplains, so they joined. I was at a rail plant show and I was chatting to Samaritans, and Dave Brown from Samaritans joined. And then we got Andy Mann's Club along, a lovely guy called Lucas Whitehead has been a regular. And since we got that cohort, we've had no issue whatsoever getting guests. I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, can I come on the panel? Of course you can. And it's not just for men, it's for anybody at all. And we run it really informally. I tend to do a script which I'll share with the panel, just in case people have memory block on the day and you've got something you can just look at. But we never need it. I'll theme it, so April session, because it's Stress Awareness Month, we focused on what are you doing to manage stress, and recognising, we all need an amount of stress to motivate ourselves, get ourselves going, but we can move into toxic stress. It might be long hours culture, it might be working with really challenging people. So people just sharing what they do about that. And then we've got Mental Health Awareness Week in May with the theme of community. So we touched on, how is community good for you? What is your community? And it can be all sorts of different things, like you support a fun run, you're part of the marshalling team, you might be part of a local club. It's your team community and who you work with.
It's an interesting word. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more with you. Our community. It's a word I only found in 2020, ironically, with what was going on in the world. Perhaps I found it in 2020. I realised I had it in 2019. That when I was, 2017, I was diagnosed with severe depression. A couple of years it took me to get to finding that community. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Yeah. You have that sense, don't you, of course, of family. Yeah. You have friends, places that you go, and actually you have communities that you belong to, that you're involved in. I was that. I don't know about you. I don't like going to hotels and then going down for breakfast on my own. I used to hate it. But I found a cafe where I could go to, and I'd sit in the corner of that cafe because I'd know the owner. Yeah. It was a nice atmosphere in that cafe, and that was my community. There was a shop next door. Yeah. Everybody was really lovely there, and that, for me, was a place of community where I could actually sit on my own, which is still really big good to say that out loud now. But we find those hard to be able to do that. Yeah. And it sounds like, certainly going back to what you said, is that you've created this community where people can show up on their own and just be there and be heard, I guess, and listen. Yeah.
One thing I found really heartwarming, I still work on my mental health, and I recently had it's 5 weeks off. In the time I was off, my daily wellbeing calls were covered by a wellbeing sort of champion posse. They just sort of stepped in and did it, which was just beautiful and encouraging, and lots of lovely comments from people while I was off supporting me. But really important that we think about who's important to us, and are we nurturing those relationships? Are we putting time into them, and exploring what is your community?
Can I ask you now, because absolutely, I guess the pressure is on to make sure your mental health and well-being is the top of its game, must come with a lot of pressure and a lot of challenge. And I see that through the calls that you do. You must benefit from those. I benefit from this conversation. I'm benefiting from and making me reflect. Aside from that, how do you now, in reflecting on where you were, that toxic environment that you were in with that boss, how do you now manage and support and ensure, it's a strong word saying ensure, you must, I'll take the word ensure back. How do you protect your mental health and well-being?
It's a great question, but if you look at sort of the darker times you go through, you can look at those as times of growth. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I hadn't gone through that really dark time, and it wouldn't have given me the passion to run sessions, lead sessions, get guests in to talk about, if you like, psychological safety, celebrate difference and uniqueness, generally care for each other. But one of my lovely colleagues called Jonathan Schofield has something he calls non-negotiables, and I thought that's a really nice term. It's stuff you do to look after you. And you can flex it. He says, like, you got it here, it doesn't mean you have to do that today and tomorrow and the next day, but have certain things you do for self-care. And if they're getting compromised, that's time just to check in with yourself.
We're rapidly running out of time, and I'm just looking at how long we've been.
I can't believe that already.
I know. I say that, and I'll probably end up talking for another 10 minutes or so. But I just wanted to ask you a couple of quick fire questions, if I may.
Yeah.
So short answers are where we can do. I always say that, and I always end up gradually taking these a little bit further on. And then I'd like to just get into what you're doing now, what's happening over the next couple of months when this gets released, and just find out a little bit more. Yeah. So before that, a couple of questions for you. So what's one leadership lesson that you wish that you'd learnt earlier in your career that you now have or stand by, perhaps?
I think a key thing to learn is to listen to your head, your heart, and your gut. And if those things aren't in alignment, you're going to be doing some damage to yourself. So listen, spend some time listening to what your body is telling you, but build on what you've already grown on. So you don't leap to something that you know nothing about, but sort of build on what you've learned in a previous role into a new role. But if something doesn't feel right, odds on it isn't.
You said non-negotiables.
Yeah.
What one well-being habit is a non-negotiable for you?
I think it's practicing gratitude.
Not Mabel the dog.
Mabel
can take herself for a walk.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. Mabel is great for me, but gratitude can lift your mindset, and it can ripple out to those people around you.
One more for you. So if you could go back and tell 2018 John, in that moment, in that pharmacy, in that toxic relationship that you've spoken about, what would it be?
It'll be okay.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay. You'll get through this. And I think when we're in our darkest times, we can't see a way forward. It's hanging on to hope. Is a great thing to do, and faith may be really powerful to people in helping with that. So I've got faith, and that's certainly helped me throughout my life, a sort of Christian faith. But people have got other things that might find it resonates for them.
Faith is an interesting word, isn't it? Is faith for me doesn't necessarily mean religion. Actually, it's what we believe in.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right there. It's what we believe and what we have faith in.
Yeah.
There. I can see, for those, I don't know whether it'll be picked up on camera, that caught me then. I genuinely felt it here to see that reminder that it's okay.
Yeah.
I can't watch other people get upset. I struggle from it. Is the, when we're in that moment, you're absolutely right, in that moment, and someone else is saying it's okay, it'll be okay. We do not listen to them, and it's maybe our amygdala part of our brain. It's that we struggle to see it's okay.
Yeah.
But actually, there's a phrase, I'm going to try and remember it correctly, that everything's okay in the end, but if it's not okay, it's not the end.
That's a very nice way of putting it. Yeah.
I'm going to briefly touch on this because it's really important. So try not to be too brief. You are soon looking to step away from Network Rail and what you do and the legacy that you've built, which is, I applaud you for what you've done. It sounds like it's you're welcome. It sounds like it's made, well, and I know it's made a huge difference. I've heard conversations. What's happening to John? Where's John going?
So for my last few months of work at Network Rail, I'm really thrilled that I'm in something called Technical Authority, which is a national function, and I'm in the suicide and trespass prevention team, who do fabulous work across the whole industry, addressing suicide issues and trespass issues. And far too many people lose their lives to suicide in the UK. In any setting, and it is an issue in the railway setting. So important we talk about it, and it's a societal thing. Important we equip people. So if you see somebody that's vulnerable, you can have a conversation with them and break that suicidal ideation and get them to a point of safety, and get them to hand over to an expert who can properly look after them. So for our setting, it would be, you might think actually they just need a conversation with somebody and that's okay, but you need to hand over to another service like British Transport Police. But for me, if you better equip people with listening skills, you're able to have great conversations in any setting, but help somebody if they're vulnerable, give you the confidence to approach if they don't feel right. So that's my next few months. So continue with my normal wellbeing stuff. I'm delivering.
Still winning the calls?
Yeah, still doing the calls. I'm delivering something called Managing Suicidal Contacts, which is a Samaritan's course. It's 3 hours. And it is to give people the confidence that they can approach somebody if they appear to be vulnerable. And it's training people across the industry. So really thrilled that Samaritans trained me to deliver that. And I've got a number of dates booked for people to come on. But after that, I've been in the industry for 40 years. It's time to step back, do a few practical things, and then I was looking to do some coaching and wellbeing stuff independently, if you like, on my own terms. So I qualified as a transformational coach. I got a diploma in it last summer, which is great. I love doing that, and a whole variety of different organisations are interested in aspects of the wellbeing stuff I do, and just talk about the nature of the work and just how we can create environments to thrive, environments where people feel safe to be themselves. And if people are just going to be themselves, you're going to get the very best out of them.
It sounds amazing, and thank you, and thank you for your honesty, your openness, your vulnerability, because particularly within your sector, we've said already, it isn't as common as it should be, and I know you're making a huge drive and have been in the industry to be able to do that. So thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
I've been told that I'm not allowed to keep telling people we need to do a longer and get you back, but in the future maybe we will get you back, because I feel like let's see where this story goes and the amazing. I'd love to be able to keep an eye on what you're up to, because there's so much stuff out there. There's people that are listening now and thinking, what's this guy's name? I'm going to make sure it's clearly so John Sidebotham on there. What's the name of the? You said there was a Facebook page. Is there a place where people can come?
Well, so it's Viva Engage. So it's just internal for. It's like Facebook for business, but people can follow me on LinkedIn, and I post there. I've written a whole variety of short pieces about different aspects of well-being. I'm in the process of trying to stitch that together into a book. So that's one of my projects post Network Rail, to actually have the time and energy to complete that and bring it to life, if anybody's interested, but we'll see.
Well, you know where John's going. LinkedIn, find him, John Sidebotham. Have a look on LinkedIn. Thank you, John. We'll finish there, and I really, really appreciate it. You're helping unmask leaders and so many different subjects. So thank you for coming. I will say, if anybody wants to sit where John's sitting, tell your story, be here, open up the doors, help us break this stigma of mental health and wellbeing in the world of leadership. But any way you can, then please come email us. So hello@leadersindisguise.com. You can find us online, so Leaders Disguise without the in, on social media. And thank you again, John.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me along.
You're welcome. Thank you.